Hey everyone, Road to Gasparilla Day 12 is here, and today we're going to be talking about pacing strategies for the 8K. We already talked about pacing for the 5K. If you didn't see that one and it's one you're interested in, go ahead and look back in the series, and we're going to be talking also about the 15 and half marathon here in the next few videos. So the 8K, really interesting race. It is the last race of the day. So one key thing, last race of the event, last race on Sunday. So it can get kind of hot. They try to set it up in a way to where you can run the half marathon and the 8K, the challenges that sometimes people do. So just be aware, it sometimes does get pretty toasty at that time. So just dress accordingly, make sure you're hydrated. So 8K also kind of interesting because it's not something that people usually get to run all that often. If you're not a former maybe college athlete who runs a bunch of those in cross country, it's not something that typically you do all that much. So pacing is kind of interesting, and there's a lot of nuance when it comes to this because it's kind of a crossover. So in the last video I talked about that if you're running an 8K or shorter distance, down to say like the 800 meter, the reason why people always stop is because of acidosis or your pH level, changing because of that waste product that comes with running at that kind of intensity. But there's nuance here, right? And so if you're somebody who maybe is enjoying the course for like say 40, 45 minutes or shorter, that's where that's going to apply. If you're going to be enjoying the course for a bit longer, then this turns into more of like a 15K race strategy, and you might want to look at the next video we're going to be putting out to see how that impacts it. But it is about time, because really your body cares about how long you're putting it under physiological stress. So it's a very strange, it's like a split point. And when you start going longer than 8K, it starts to become about running economy. And we talked about fuel source. You're probably not going to run out of fuel in an 8K, but the more time you're out there, the more likely it is to where you're not going to have that carbohydrate, the rocket fuel to where you run fast. So if you're somebody, I'm going to be specifically talking about that first group. If you're like 45, 40 minutes or faster, this is where the main strategy is. If you have any specific questions about yourself and your situation, shoot me a message down in the comments down below, and I'd be happy to help out. But there's a very great similarity, again, because of what I just said there, between how the 5K and the 8K run should be paced. And it's basically a similar 3-segment chunk that I talked about last time. It's just spread out a little bit more because we're dealing with 3 more kilometers, almost 2 miles here, right? So what I would say for anybody, the best race success is to go out conservatively. And just like we said in the 5K, you don't want to go out, run your PR in your 2 miles, and then you're just out there, hating everything for the last little bit, because that will happen. If you run too fast, you will absolutely have to slow down because your pH is going down, because the acid is increasing. That's the waste product of running at this kind of intensity. So essentially what you want to do is break it up into the first 2 miles, the next 2 miles, and then the last almost mile. It's not quite 5 miles, but being a little more conservative is the way to go here, because as you see that finish line, that PR is possible. You're going to have a little bit more to give. But if you've gotten into that state again of acidosis, which is a form of fatigue, if you're fatigued because of that acid building, you can't push through that. That jelly-legged feeling, that great amount of fatigue from the pH, it's actually a defense mechanism that your body has built in so that you don't destroy your body, essentially. But that is something that you physically can't push through until you've gotten out of what's called oxygen debt, right? So your body didn't have enough oxygen to supply the energy because you ran too fast, so it relied on this other pathway to supply energy. Not getting too into the weeds there, but that's essentially what happened, and you cannot outrun that. You cannot just will yourself to run faster than that. It is a safety mechanism for a reason, right? So going out more conservatively is the way to go. So same thing, if you've been doing your race pace sort of efforts, your VO2 max runs, your 5K, 8K specific runs, that's going to be pretty close to your race pace. It's obviously a bit slower than in the 5K. And again, there's a lot of nuance with the 8K because it's not run nearly as much as the other distances. But you want to take those and be a bit slower for the first 2 miles, say 20 seconds slower than your race pace for the first 2 miles. Now you've gotten into that 3rd mile, you're going from 3 and 4, so that second chunk, so the 3rd and 4th mile. Now you want to be right at your goal race pace. And if you have set this up correctly, something that you're actually able to do, you should easily be able to hold goal race pace there, right? Because goal race pace is something that you can theoretically run all the way through. But doing it this way gives you a much better chance of doing it. Going out too hard basically gives you no chance of doing it. If you go out too hard and you're just struggling to the finish, really you've left time on the table because you should have been able to actually pace it a little bit more correctly and be able to run a faster total time. Because that time, once you're in fatigue state, that pace that you're able to run is never going to be faster than just sub that threshold or where you start to accumulate the acid. So that's how I would do it. First 2 miles, a little bit slower than goal pace, maybe 20 seconds per mile. Then mile 3 and 4, you're right at goal pace, maybe a tiny bit faster for that last, the last bit of it, maybe the last like 600 meters of mile 4, and then you get to that last almost mile and it is just go time. It is everything you got left. You will be able to smoothly push, just like we talked about in the 5K, if you have done everything correctly at this point, because you've run fast, you have some fatigue, but you haven't gotten to the point where your body's pH is all screwed up and you just can't push through it. So that's the way you want to do it with those 3 segments: 2 miles, 2 miles, last almost miles, where you really want to push at that point. Now, there are going to be pacers out there. The thing about pacing, though, is one, pacers, it's usually the most crowded part of a race, especially if it's like a popular like barrier that somebody's trying to break. So pacers are great as well of like kind of like keeping you on point. Like, let's say that there's a pacer out there who is where you want to start for your first 2 miles. That's a good place to start if it's going to keep you in check. But if you run, and those pacers are all going to run a very even split, you're typically actually leaving time on the table if you do that. The way of doing this cut down, again, we talked about how every world record last time in the mile all the way out to the marathon is set with a reverse split or a faster second half than first. So if you have a huge barrier, like, you know, you're trying to break 40 minutes, I don't know if there is a pacer for 40 minutes for the 8K, but if you want to absolutely guarantee it and you think running in a group is going to help you get there, you can do that. But typically what that means is you've actually left some time on the table for your current fitness. So definitely set up this strategy. Take a look at what the pacers look like for it. There may be something that's going to be perfect for you, and you know, you don't really care about running much faster than that. You just want to break a barrier. That's one reason why you would do it. But if you're really looking to see where are you right there, set your fastest time, maximize where your fitness is, you're going to want to do it in this 2 mile, last mile segment. That's the best way for success. So again, if you have any specific questions, ask those in the comments down below. This is the end of the 8K pacing strategy. We're going to be back here for the 15K race strategy next.